What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast being the 3 C's with Ginge and the 3 C's being coffee and content creation. I'm here with my co-host and husband, Mr. Josh.
Hello, everybody.
That's a very deep voice.
I know. Well, the thing is, I'm not drinking coffee this episode. I'm drinking a Red Bull. So you about to get awesome content. Just so we're on the same page.
Awesome.
It's gonna be great.
Yes.
For all my Bostonites out there. Awesome. Khakis. That's all I know. Anyways, let's go. Let's do it. It's a good episode. I'm excited about this episode.
All right. So
I'm going to eat Cheez-Its too.
Oh, no, you're not.
I just need this one Cheez-It. It's so good.
I'm so sorry for the ASMR that's about to happen. I will cover the side.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Anyway, guys, so today we are going to talk about leadership. In the sense of kind of leading your team and how to kind of get people on the same page about what the big picture is, your goals, all that kind of stuff. So that way you're all on the same picture, like the same page with it, really. Yeah.
And that trickles down to your community as a whole. If you have a community, whether or not you have a staff or not, it doesn't really matter. If you have a community that you are running, you need to make sure they understand the bigger picture of your content and what your idea of what you're putting out is. That's really important, because if everyone has meshed ideas of what you're trying to put out, it may not align, it may not just work very well and stuff like that. So you really need to be the leader of a lot of that stuff. And make sure you're at the forefront, make sure everybody understands the same vision you have for your content. Yep. So that's what we're going to be talking about this episode.
We always like to kind of attribute whatever we're talking about to some sort of personal experience that we've had, just because I don't like giving advice or information on things that I just don't feel I have the right to speak on. And that's not saying that you don't have the right to speak on something if you haven't experienced it. It's just, if I'm going to give advice or if I'm going to talk about something, I want it to be from a place of knowledge, and a place of me being able to give that advice. And so this one is coming from a few months ago. My personal, community, we were going through some changes, and my mod team was essentially falling apart. And at the time, it was easy to blame it on everybody else but myself, because I could. It was easy to say, well, this is happening because this happened, and this is happening because of this person, or whatever it might be. But in reality, it was simply just a wake-up call. Myself and Josh, and Josh had a couple times kind of tried to talk to me about it, but I'm not the best at being proactive about things. And unfortunately, it caused some issues within it, which everything is cleared up now. But, because of it, we lost a few good moderators. Our main moderator, Momo, was about to leave, and, but at the same time, like I said, we learned, and I learned a lot from it. And I now know what it means to be an active leader and what it means to be an active kind of community host, in a sense. And it was a hard learning experience, but I'm so happy that it happened when I was quote unquote smaller. So that way it didn't create such big issues.
Yeah. So again, we always talk about personal experience. And so this was a pretty trying time within the community. So what a lot of it broke down to was, and everyone can always blame everything on communication. That's one thing I get in my line of work, that if someone complains, I'll say, oh, it's communication. So it's not always the lack of communication, it's the lack of understanding. Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of it comes down to. Whether it's, why are we doing this or whatever it might be. One of your main jobs as the leader of your community and your content is just to make sure everyone understands the bigger picture, the short and the long-term goals of what you're trying to put out. And if people don't understand that, whether, again, it is your community or your staff or both, that can lead to some serious problems. So it's very, very important that, especially with your staff, if you have a staff, if you have a mod team, or if you have community helpers, whatever it might be, whatever your word for them is, that they really understand your content and they really understand what your bigger vision is. Now, some of the stuff we were running into is because we had a great group of people helping us out, but the problem was everyone had their own vision of what they thought Scaredy Ginger's vision was. And that's something you have to understand. So it's not necessarily that someone's trying to control your business, but they have their own vision of what they perceive your vision to be. Yep. And if you don't, I don't want to say control that, but if you don't help direct that and you don't get them to understand what that vision is, that's when everybody has these different ideas, and then people feelings start getting hurt, or they just feel like they're not being listened to and stuff like that. They're not getting what they're asking for, or whatever it might be. And that's just because their perception of your vision is different than what you've either led them to believe or not to believe. Mm-hmm. So it is very important to just make sure that you talk to them, you communicate. Even if things are changing, or if you're trying a different route, you're trying different communication, you have to talk to these people and basically be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to work towards. This is what I'm trying to put out, stuff like that. They have to understand that.
In a sense, your main team, like your moderation team or whatever it might be that you do, and those people that you have, they're kind of your advisors in a sense, right? You can go to them and be like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about it? Or, hey, I have this idea. What can you do to help me with it? Or what can I do to, you know what I mean? And again, that was something that I wasn't doing. I was just kind of doing things on my own. And unfortunately, I wasn't progressing as fast as I should have. And that's because while I love my community and everything, I don't like to burden them. And I don't like to make my moderators feel overworked. And I don't like to do any of that because after all, this is all on a volunteer basis. I don't pay them, and they can leave at any time that they want to. But at the same time, they are volunteers. They are there to support. They're there to help. And so if you have things that you want to do, and, this was for me, you have to talk to them, because then you can't get upset when they're not helping you, because when did you ever ask them to step in and give you that advice or kind of give you that support? And so, that for me was the biggest revelation that I've had since realistically starting content creation. And it sort of goes back to the whole branding thing for me. My brand is so important to me, and these people know that, and they are like, they're super along with it too. And so it's like, why wouldn't I lean on them for this stuff,
Yeah, that was obviously that was just causing some issues. One thing I want to point out on that is the whole kind of like lone wolf mentality. You're not going to become successful alone in anything you do.
No.
So if you have people supporting you, I'm not saying use them, but use that support.
Especially if they're offering it.
Right. Yep. Everyone brings something different to the table. So if you have a team of 3 or 4 or 5 people, or less or more, it doesn't matter. Make sure you're talking to them, bouncing ideas off them, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So one of the first things we did to kind of fix when we really identified that, hey, this is a problem, is we made sure to talk. You actually got into a voice chat, not just a text chat, but a voice chat with everybody at the same time, so everybody could, say their piece. Basically just set some boundaries of the rules of the voice chat. Basically, we'll talk one at a time and all that kind of stuff. But that would definitely be my first piece of advice if you now find yourself in our type of situation that we had. Or even just to stay ahead of the curve. Make sure, communicating. Again, text communicating is great. Writing messages, emails, that's great. But that can always leave some things room for to be interpreted.
Yeah.
And that can be bad. You can.
So you can't hear the tone. You can't hear any of that.
Tone, or just, if you're in a bad, this is something people don't realize. If you're in a bad mood and you read something, a lot of times you're going to read that as if it was some sort of negative or bad mood, even if it's not meant that way. So that's just something to think about. So, my first piece of advice, get in voice chats, even if you're scared to talk on the phone or talk over the interwebs, stuff like that. You hear each other's voice, get on that level of communication. It's very important.
And for me, being a streamer, you would think that it's just easy for me to talk to people, but for some reason, I'm just not a person that likes to talk on the phone or talk in voice chat. It's just something that I've personally never really liked. And so unfortunately that kind of melded into this, and that's a lot of what caused an issue too.
Yeah. If you're one of those people, you have, if you're in this situation, if you're leading community and stuff like that, you have to get over yourself. There are going to be times when you really, really, really should talk on voice or Skyping or webcam, something.
Yep.
You need that little more personal interaction, because that's going to help people understand what you're trying to put out, and then the communication there. So if you have a team, get them in a chat. whether they're having problems or not, even just like maybe a monthly check-in, something like that. So you can get ahead of the problems and not wait until they're compounded and just disastrous or just causing problem, or what people like to say in this industry, just causing drama. I promise you can avoid a lot of this stuff by just talking to your people up front and hearing what they have to say too. I'm not saying you need to, be like you're the boss, you're the CEO, and you're just running this stuff. No, get into a conversation and see what they have to say. Hear everyone's opinions. You don't know what kind of gold nuggets can come from that.
And, I think it's easy to say, well, I don't need to talk to them because I spend so much time with them anyway. What is there left to say? But here's the thing. You would be surprised at what little things can annoy somebody else, or what something else, just misinterpretation, so many different things. And getting on those voice chats can save you so much time in the future for when big things happen. And just from experience over the past couple weeks and months, what I will say is it's always better to talk to somebody or to something or do something beforehand rather than wait for it to happen and then try to deal with it afterward. Because 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some sort of lingering something somewhere where it's going to try, or they're going to try, or something like that, try to tear you down, when in reality, it could have just taken a simple voice chat or whatever it might be, and everything would be fine.
Preventative is much more advantageous than cleanup work. Realistically. So that is very, very important. One of the next things that we did, especially after that voice chat, and then the following couple weeks stuff like that, is we defined everyone's roles. If you don't have that, sure, you have moderators, right? So that's how we just had mods. But the thing is, there's mods for Discord, there's mods for streaming. You can have mods for YouTube stuff. Like you can have different style of mods. But if people's jobs and roles and how far the left and right limits of that job are, if they're not defined, that can leave a lot of room for interpretation and cause a lot of problems. People can overstep the roles, they can understep the roles because they don't understand where their responsibilities are. So that's on you as a leader, again, to make sure you define. And if you're on the mod side, if you're listening to this and you're on the mod side of things too, if you're ever unclear about things, just make sure you ask, talk to whoever, content you're helping create and stuff like that, and make sure you understand where you stand as well. That's not just on leaders. Communication works 2 ways, which people, I think, they forget about. If you're having an issue, whatever it might be, make sure you talk to that person. And again, both from up to down, left to right kind of deal. It doesn't matter where if you're a mod and you're having a problem with another mod, talk to them. And if it's one of those things that maybe you can't work with them, you can't talk to them, you might need to talk to the content creator and be like, hey, I'm having a problem with this mod. Is there a way we can work this out and fix this? But I know I went off on a little side tangent there.
That makes sense, though.
Define people's roles. That is a very, very, very important thing. You can't necessarily just have someone that has all this sort of power and then just call them a mod, then someone else who is a mod not have the same amount of power when they have the same title. It seems kind of weird, and a lot of people do things for titles, but they need to understand just where they stand within the community and what their limits of their abilities are.
I think one thing for me, like a big thing that I want to put in here, is knowing who should be a moderator and who shouldn't be a moderator. That can be difficult, especially when you're first starting out. You have people that hang out in your chat all the time and you're like, you know what? This person will probably be a great person to be a moderator. And some of my OGs are just that. They've been here since day one. Momo has literally been with us, I think, maybe even before I got affiliate at this point. And he's my main everything. And when it comes to me, he's my tech support, he's the main moderator, he has his own role, all this kind of stuff, but that's because he's put the time in and he has earned that. But then there comes other things, say you have a moderator that starts to stream and they become somebody who's becoming successful. It might behoove you and them to not have them be a moderator anymore, simply because of the fact that they're now going to become busy, and you also want them to be successful, right? So you want them to be able to focus on their own content creation. Has nothing to do with, them being somebody seen as competition or anything of that sort. It's simply you want them to focus on their stuff and not focus so much of their time on yours. So that way they can start to be, somebody who's successful and start to build their own community and their own stream.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Wouldn't that be the goal of having people in your community too? You want them to be successful. So if you have someone that comes up through your community and then is able to branch off on their own, that's, first of all, that's a success for you because that shows you're doing something right. So if you're able to, in a sense, raise somebody or help train somebody, or they just copy off of you in the sense of like emulating you, that is a great thing.
Yep. And then just to say really quick, that's one great thing since Twitch now, and this one will be for Twitch, they have the VIP badges now. And so that's a great way because some people will kind of get funky with that. A VIP badge is a great way to be like, hey, you're an awesome part of this community. I'm going to give you this badge. They're not a moderator, but they're still seen as somebody who's a big, huge part of your community,
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I was going to take a step back and say, if you have someone that you're interested in them becoming a mod and stuff like that, don't just obviously talk to them. Don't just surprise them with a mod ship because some people don't want that responsibility. But try it on a trial period. Yep. Start with something like that. Be like, hey, you've been active in the community, doing great. We've maybe talked about you becoming a mod. So for the next month, we're going to put you on a mod status. These are the limits of your abilities. And see how they do. And then just give them feedback as they're going along or whatever it might be. And then you have now, in a sense, trained your own mod kind of deal. Or they realize, hey, this is just more than what I wanted. I was just enjoying just being part of the community, being helpful.
Yep.
And also you mods that want to be a mod need to understand there are responsibilities inherent in that role.
Yep.
It's not just a title. So you can say, hey, cool, I'm a mod in so-and-so's stream or content. That's not... You are raising your hand in a sense and saying, I am a bigger part of this community. So there are responsibilities inherent in that role. And you need to understand that. So if you're part of a content creator's stuff and they say, hey, you're going to be a mod, but these are going to be your roles. If you're uncomfortable with that or you're unable to live up to certain aspects of it, again, that's part of the communication thing. Being like, hey, I know I'm a mod. I can really only cover Discord because I work a lot, but I can check Discord from my phone. So I'm going to miss your streams. See, that's easy conversation. That's not you necessarily turning down anything. That's you just saying what you can handle. So
and us content creators really, really, really appreciate it when our moderators come to us. I actually had one on my own. He was a wonderful moderator, but he's in university now. And so it's like he just doesn't have the time to be a moderator. He's still incredibly active within the community, but just not having that role and not having all of having to do everything that comes along with it, it's easier for him. He could focus on university, still be a big part of the community, but enjoy it and not have to be there and moderate my streams or moderate the Discord.
Right.
So. And
then another part I wanted to just touch back on. We talk about Momo a lot. It's just he would be here on this podcast if he probably could be. That's
in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I was like, actually, as I say that, right? So he did it right in the sense of how he got the spot in our community as the jack of all trades. Yep. He does everything but being a front man. Realistically, he is a completely behind the scenes guy because that works perfect for him. But the reason why he does that is because he created that job for himself. Now, that sounds kind of weird. I understand that, but I want you to think about it. Scared Ginge and I, we're pretty good with a lot of things, but he was just much more experienced technically. He's just very savvy with a lot of different things and has his own personality. And he started just running behind the scene things, started helping out and just going above and beyond. And he just kept doing that and kept doing that and kept doing that. And eventually that's just a natural role he fell into. It's not just all of a sudden like he's like, hey, I'm doing all this. No, he just naturally fell into it by creating that role for himself. So how you do that is if you're in some content creator's space and you realize there's an area that they can improve on or that you can help them with, help them. Just do that. Help them to the best of your ability. And I'm not just saying give away things for free. I'm just simply saying if you see an area of improvement and that is a skill set you have, show them that. Yep. If you are good at designing stuff or graphic work and stuff like that, start making up some stuff. You know, I'm not saying to take a crazy amount of time out of your day and stuff like that, but if you want to be a part of them, start doing some of that work for them. And I promise you, in no time at all, you're going to carve out your own role in their community.
And then the thing with that is too, Momo too streams. He has his own YouTube and stuff like that. And, you know, people always think, well, if I do something, I want money back from it. Do you know what speaks louder than that? When somebody can say, hey, this person has done this for me and they did a really awesome job, especially if that somebody has a big following. You know, I'm about to hit 4,000 followers on Twitch. My Twitter is growing. Like, all of this stuff is getting bigger. And so when I share things like that, it brings people to it. You know, people are like, ooh, this person's really good at emotes. Let me go check them out. You know, word of mouth is huge within this community. As a whole, the whole content creator, like everything of it. And so maybe take a step back every now and again and think, you know what can I do for somebody else that can also in turn do something for me? You know, the what is it? Give two, take one. Give one, take two. Give all of it and expect nothing.
You're bad at this.
I am.
Basically, it's one of those things. The more stuff you give away for free,
Yep.
the more you're going to get it returned and abundantly. So if you have some stuff that you can do for somebody else, you know, for free or whatever it might be, you're going to see returns like that, maybe monetarily, but maybe in a lot of other ways that
Yep.
you just didn't necessarily expect, you know. This is a great space for people with unique talents
Yes.
to really stand out and really help. It's not all about money. And I know a lot of people come to this space for money, but it's content creation. That means being creative. For all you people that just have a creative bug, like a lot of us do, a lot of this generation has some sort of creative bug, because for so long society has been stuck in like a box and you have to fit these certain roles, you know, doctor, lawyer, firefighter, policeman, all that kind of stuff. And more and more people are just kind of breaking out for that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those professions.
Not at all.
I'm not even just saying profession. I'm just saying that we've been stuck in a box for a long time. So people want to get out and they want to express themselves. We live in a time in the internet and all this kind of stuff. Get out and express yourself. So if you have some creative stuff you can do, I mean, there you go. This is the space to really unleash that side of you.
But you also have to remember you are worth quite a lot, and don't ever give stuff away for free, if that makes sense. I know we just said, you know, don't do that, you know, it's not about money, but money doesn't make up everything. And what I mean by that is don't give things away that you wouldn't want to. Don't let somebody talk you into, you know, doing free commissions for them just because, you know, or anything like that. But if it's somebody that you look up to, or it's somebody that you're friends with, or whatever it might be, or you guys have like, you know, a quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo.
Yeah, there you go. Type
Meaning this for that.
yeah, you know, type of relationship in that sense, then that's okay, because you know that when you give them something, you're going to get something back, and vice versa. You know, don't let people use you. It's easy in this industry for people to use other people in ways that you might not even see it happening. And I see it quite often. And what I would hate is for any of you to put your heart and your soul and you're just being into something and then get screwed over for it, you know?
Right. To put that in a little context, give you an example in case you just, you know, maybe that flew over your head. You just didn't quite understand what Scaredy was saying. If you are a graphic artist, let's say, and you put 150 hours into this banner and all this artwork for a creator that you're a big part of, I'm not saying you need to sell it to them, but make sure you're getting something in return for that time. That is a crap ton of time invested into something. I don't know how many hours it takes or stuff like that. I am about as far from a graphic artist as you can go.
He can chop potatoes.
You give me a coloring book, I'll do some damage. Yeah. But no, so stuff like that, you know, if you're a musician, you're doing custom music work for someone, you know, stuff like that. Value your own work. I'm not saying just get into someone's content and then start giving them stuff for free. Don't take that out of what I'm saying. I'm just saying you can carve out a spot in someone's community by doing stuff like that. But don't don't do that expecting return, you know. You know, give for the sake of giving, give for the sake of this is a creative space. Let's all create together. I'm big about that. But again, don't undervalue your work either.
And, you know, again, just kind of going back, you know, this is all about leadership. And I know we've kind of gone off on a tangent, but to kind of piggyback off of that, there aren't only moderator roles. There are a lot of big content creators who, if you go into their Discord and stuff like that, there are certain roles for people that have done artwork for them, for people that have done the music for them, for people that have done editing, yada, yada. You know what I mean? And when you have, communities with over 10,000 and 20,000 people and your name is up there at the top, people are going to want to know why you're up there. They're going to look into it. And as a leader, leaders should be doing that. Leaders should be putting those people into roles or whatever it might be, so that way other people can find them. Because again, word of mouth really is what does it for this industry.
Right. I mean, that's a great point. I think probably one of the notes that we're about to end on, but let's talk about Discord for a moment. I'm going to assume basically everyone listening is pretty familiar with Discord. So you have the roles on the right-hand side, right? So again, since we've just been talking about artwork, you're an artist, you're out there crushing and stuff like that. And all of a sudden when you log into this Discord that has a couple thousand people, even a couple hundred people, whatever it might be, a community that you're just heavily involved in, all of a sudden you see like you have a role of artist. I absolutely bet you're going to start getting DMs about getting commission work. And so, yes, maybe all that artwork you did for that content creator, you didn't get paid for it in that sort of sense. But now all of a sudden, you got work coming in, so it's stuff like that. Support works both ways. And then I just kind of want to end on this note. It's if you're giving a lot to a creator and you're not getting things in return in that sort of sense, again, without expectation, but you're just kind of getting used in that sort of sense. I know we talked about being used the other way, but I want to talk about it as if you are trying to help out a content creator. You need to be self-aware and mindful of that, realizing I'm putting in all of this work and I'm not getting anything back.
Nothing is ever for free.
Well, but what I'm trying to talk about is, so like, my example of this is like, even though Scared and I are married and stuff like that, there are times that it gets really tough for me because I put a lot of work in behind the scenes for her business and all of this kind of stuff. And sometimes I sit there and I'm like, I'm getting nothing out of this. And sometimes that can be tough. So there are times I've had to take a break and stuff like that. So, it's just be mindful of that. If you're giving someone all this love and support and stuff like that, you're not getting anything back, you don't feel like you are, there's nothing wrong with stopping what you're doing or walking away.
Or communicating. Or,
like we said, communicating. And that has been things that I've had to do with my own wife. Even though it's her business, I've had to step back and be like, hey, I need to slow my roll a little bit. I'm just getting tired. I'm getting a little burnt out. I'm doing all this work and I don't see anything out of that. That it is Scaredy's business. So,
with that being said, again, all about leadership. It's hard to be a leader, but it's fruitful to be a leader. It's wonderful when your community is doing great and everything. It's not always going to be great. There are going to be times where you literally feel like everything is falling apart. But
welcome to business.
But that is what happens when you own your own business and you are in charge of everything like that. You can speak to any CEO, anything like that. They will tell you there's always going to come a point within your, owning of your own business that something is going to feel like it's the end of the world. But you push through that, you figure it out, you fix it, you communicate, and you do all of this, and you're bound to just you're bound to do better the next time around. But yeah, guys, if you haven't already, make sure to give this episode a like, subscribe here on YouTube, and if you're listening on whatever other broadcasting system that it's coming off of, make sure to leave us a review. Let us know what you think. It really does help us with future content and such. But yeah, guys, we look forward to hearing from you again. We have a Twitter. It's down in the description below. We'd love for you to follow us. I try to update there as much as I can. We're going to put out new episodes and such, as well as every once in a while there's forms that I want people to fill out so that way we can kind of read through that and leave that information or put that information into podcasts as well. But yeah, guys, so we will see you again in a few days when the next episode is uploaded. So have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.